Roger Bootle, The Trouble with Europe, Why the EU Isn't Working, How It Can Be Reformed, What Could Take Its Place. The Trouble with Europe by Roger Bootle examines the historical, economic, and political foundations of the European Union (EU), and the challenges it continues to face today. This book summary delves into the origins of the EU, the growth of its membership, and the complexities of governing such a diverse set of countries. It offers insights into the slow economic growth of the EU, the challenges of integrating new countries, as well as the strains that globalization, migration, and cultural differences bring. The book critically evaluates the monetary union, the euro, and the need for potential reforms within the EU.
Europe's path to peace. The European Union was founded after World War II to promote integration and prevent future conflicts. French statesmen Robert Schuman and Jean Monnet envisioned this through the European Economic Community. An increase in countries and a shift of power from nation-states to union institutions resulted in economic growth, laying the foundation for the euro currency and political ties. Today, the EU has 28 members, aims to compete with the United States, China, and India, and serves individual nations' financial interests through a large, peaceful marketplace. However, current leaders are criticized for lacking vision. Europe's identity crisis. Europe faces an identity crisis driven by migration, economic disparity, and cultural differences. The European Union (EU) struggles to harmonize member nations with disparate economies and cultures, causing increasing frustration and a growing anti-Europe movement in many countries. As the EU considers expansion to include culturally and economically different nations, questions about the shared values and identity of the EU arise. Europeans often feel they lack control over the volume and nature of regulations from the EU. The challenge is not only economic but also about the quality of governance and democracy. To navigate this identity crisis, the EU must determine what values and identity it wants and at what point it should halt expansion. EU's economic troubles. The original 6 members of the EU enjoyed high economic growth thanks to post-war rebuilding while the UK struggled with structural issues. The EU's policies of trade, labour, and expense controls create structural problems and inefficiencies, hindering economic growth. The formation of the euro and the EU's moral hazard have contributed to economic troubles, and its trading policies interfere with business and encourage overspending. The birth and nightmares of the euro. The euro was not born out of economic sense, but rather political pragmatism. The Maastricht Treaty laid down economic criteria for its eligibility, but neighboring nations have no control over each other's chosen policies. The euro's launch allowed countries with previously high interest rates to experience cheap money, leading to massive spending sprees and a loss of competitiveness in the periphery countries. The global financial crisis led to harsh times for the periphery members and a worsening in their debt-to-GDP ratios. The solution to buy the bonds of troubled countries without limitation resulted in larger distressed economies not being subject to the same fiscal controls as countries in the bailout program such as Greece. These transfers inhibit recipients from taking tough measures while making the contributors resentful. Britain and the EU. Prime Minister David Cameron identified 5 areas for the EU to reform in order to succeed in the 21st century. While the UK has veto power, leaving the EU could jeopardize trade links and foreign investments. Despite wanting Europe to succeed, Cameron takes issue with the EU's current structure. The UK has post-exit options, including maintaining a relationship with the EU like Switzerland, Norway, or Turkey, or negotiating free trade agreements with Commonwealth nations. Challenges facing the Eurozone. The euro currency union hinders change and economic progress, and the only solution may be fundamental reform or dissolution. The United Kingdom's experience leaving currency mechanisms resulted in a swift recovery, despite conventional wisdom predicting catastrophe. The Eurozone also faces the challenge of a low birth rate, which translates to a lower GDP, and the only fix seems to be welcoming large numbers of immigrants. However, this can cause disaffection within indigenous communities. While full fiscal and political union may not turn the EU into the United States of Europe, it presents challenges due to the lack of common language and diverse cultures and histories. Ultimately, Europe's relative population compared to the rest of the world continues to shrink, signaling a decline in the European Union's outlook. The future of the European Union. Could the dissolution of the EU lead to a free trade area similar to NAFTA? The European Union faces a crossroad in its future, with proponents of its governance highlighting the need for further economic and political integration. However, the EU's history of ineffective decision-making and challenges to economic growth threaten to undermine its legitimacy. In light of these issues, the possibility of an EU dissolution must be considered. Despite this, the dissolution of the EU may not preclude the formation of a free trade area, similar to NAFTA between Canada, Mexico, and the US. Other international unions, such as the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, prioritize trade integration without full political involvement. Under a free trade model, member nations would align based on similarities rather than being forced together. A similar European model, the European Free Trade Association, could expand and attract countries such as Turkey. Critics argue that the EU's striving for ever closer political and economic union only worsens existing democratic deficits and restricts business trading and functioning. While some countries remain outside the monetary union, it seems unlikely that they would want to join the euro. In light of these challenges, the EU must either reform to address these issues or consider dissolution.
In conclusion, The Trouble with Europe offers a comprehensive analysis of the EU's history, development, and present challenges. The book highlights the importance of fostering competitiveness, promoting flexibility, and restoring national powers for the EU to succeed in the 21st century. Being at a pivotal crossroads, the EU needs to address its shortcomings and potentially undertake necessary reforms or dissolve. Exploring options for the United Kingdom in the context of Brexit and outlining alternatives for future European cooperation, The Trouble with Europe invites readers to critically reflect on the current state and future direction of the EU.